Risers and fallers ahead of week 3 of fantasy football. Welcome into the No BS Fantasy Show. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're going to start with a faller right off the bat with Ashton Jeanty. After 2 weeks, I want him off my roster immediately. We head into the game log, and there's not much saving grace here. We look at his rush yards per game, 43 rush yards. Now, he's faced some tough teams, but let's look at the schedule, guys. It doesn't get much easier. You face, ending the season, Cleveland, the Chargers again, the Broncos in the playoffs. They face Philadelphia, Houston, and then in the championship, if you make it there, which I doubt you can, you get the Giants. But this is a disaster of a schedule. The snaps, he didn't even play as many snaps yesterday, but they absolutely needed to change things up a little bit. But 85% of snaps in week 1. The routes, we're going to update those here. But the rush attempts, it's just not good enough. And Ashton Jeanty, unfortunately, is not looking like he's going to live up to the hype year 1. This O-line is terrible. So my recommendation, I want to get this guy off my roster ASAP. And right now is the time to trade him away. He's still got that name value. He's still got the some of that draft value, that first or second round draft value is still on him. I would try to trade him away right now in order to get someone better for your team that can actually contribute. Maybe someone like our first riser, Rome Odunze, who's been absolutely crushing it in his second year in this Ben Johnson offense. People got to watch out for DJ Moore. They got to stop the run in DeAndre Swift, who hasn't been too bad. They got to watch out for the tight ends, which are a big part of this offense. And Rome Odunze is benefiting. So far, he is a top 5 wide receiver. He is a top 12 wide receiver in target share. And we head over to the game log, and it just wasn't week 2 where they're down a ton of points against the Lions. It was week 1 as well against Minnesota. He had 7 receptions. The air yards are absolutely insane. We're going to check that out in the Walter Picks app. Look at the air yards here. Let me find that right here. Yep, week 2, receiving air yards, 200 air yards. In the schedule, it's going to be amazing for Rome Odunze. They're going to pass heavily against Dallas. They're going to pass against the Raiders, who actually have a surprising good run defense. We look ahead to the fantasy football playoffs, but Cleveland, you can't run the ball against Cleveland. You have to air it out. They're going to face Green Bay, another disaster of a matchup, and then San Francisco. So it is rough for the fantasy playoffs, but I certainly believe Rome Odunze can get you there. And the thing with this offense, you can't cover everybody. And DJ Moore, he's still the best wide receiver on this roster, but what that allows is Rome Odunze, who's an excellent wide receiver as well, to be covered by the second best or third best cornerback on the team and allow him to excel. So I'm all in. I'm buying as many shares of Rome Odunze as I can because I think he's going to continue to crush this year. Now back to the fallers. Unfortunately, we've got A.J. Brown, and this is a player I can hand up to this one, say I was absolutely avoiding him in the draft process. And I'll go to the My Team tab in the Walter Picks app. Pass attempts per game is absolutely abysmal. 25 pass attempts per game, 32nd in the league again, just like they were last year. And they're just not passing enough. We go over to his target share, not bad. I'll go over to the game log as well, and we'll see he scored 1.8, 7.7, and this time he had 8 targets. He had 8 targets, and he cannot score fantasy points. The target share, 38%. That's better than Malik Neighbors had last year to lead the NFL in terms of percentage, but that's only 8 targets. There's Juwan Johnson, had more targets this week. Jake Ferguson had more targets. There's so many players that had more targets. And it's not looking good for this offense. And the reason it's not looking good is because they can walk over teams. They can tush push. They can run the football. They can dink and dunk. They can use the tight ends. It is not required for A.J. Brown to be super involved in this offense. Now, the weeks they need him, yes, he may have a few good weeks here and there. But when we look at the schedule, he's going to have some good games. We go to the playoffs. Maybe the Raiders in the playoffs could be good. The Commanders, the Bills, that could be a great fantasy football playoffs for A.J. Brown. But until we get there, the Eagles will be destroying every single team they face. They will not be passing. So this is another guy that I may try to hold on to just because his trade value is so low. Wait for that first game for him to have a touchdown. Let everyone be like, he's back. He's not back. They do not need to run the ball on a weekly basis. So he's going to have a few good games, but he's not going to be consistent enough. So I would hold this guy, but his value is definitely down in the dumps after 2 straight weeks of suboptimal fantasy performance. But what about Keenan Allen, an absolute riser after week 1 and 2? His target share is incredible. His fantasy points, he is a wide receiver 1 back on this Chargers offense. And this is a guy I said last week to buy high. I think the price absolutely went up after week 2. We see that he had 5 receptions, 61 yards, another touchdown. So pretty consistent. Let's say we take the touchdown away. That's still almost 14 points in week 1. And then in week 2, that's still 11 fantasy points. 10 targets in week 1, 7 targets in week 2 in a game that wasn't majorly competitive. And we look down across the board here, they're going to have some competitive games. They face the Chiefs again in week 15. They face Dallas in week 16. They face Houston in week 17. These are some great matchups for Keenan Allen because you can't run against Houston. You can't run against the Chiefs, and Dallas could be an absolute shootout. So love the playoff schedule as well for Keenan Allen. I'm always thinking championship with you guys. I'm always thinking championship, and I think Keenan Allen can also get you there. This target share, the volume, the red zone targets, we may not, just because the game when I'm recording this was just yesterday. Yeah, we don't have those quite yet, but the red zone targets have been incredible as well. So Keenan Allen definitely rising. If you can still get them cheap, I'd send a trade offer, see what you can get. But I think an average of 13, 14, 15 points a game is not unreasonable with how many different weapons you have to cover in this Chargers offense. Our second rookie running back on the Fowler's list is Omarion Hampton, Keenan Allen's teammate. Very unfortunate here. We look at the yards per carry, pretty dang terrible, 3.1. We'll go to the game log. He has faced 2 very tough run defenses to start the league. Remember the Raiders week 1, they were good against the Patriots as well, who looked amazing week 2 against Miami. So that's the dichotomy of the defenses this year. Some defenses are amazing, some defenses are terrible, and we have to keep that in mind for fantasy football. I think this year more than most, watch out for that defensive matchup. And week 4, facing the Giants, probably going to be good, but next week, week 5, we look at the playoff schedule as well. Kansas City, awful for the running back. Houston, awful for the running back. We just talked about how good that was for Keenan Allen. It's just not looking good based on what he's producing. And one of the things I want to highlight here is I'm going to scroll over the snaps, not snap percentage, really bad yesterday. Really, really bad. Rush attempts, really, really bad. Targets, not good at all. So Omarion Hampton is another player that I'm honestly trying to get off my roster. If someone's like, I'm buying, maybe they're a Chargers fan, I don't know. But Omarion Hampton is someone I'd be trying to sell right now if you can get a decent value. Remember, the draft just happened. So right now, we shouldn't be remembering draft value, but people in your league will make that mistake. So Omarion Hampton, maybe for Javonte Williams, someone may make that trade. But yeah, I got Hampton for my 11th round pick. You never know. So send a couple trades. Try to get Omarion Hampton off your team because it's not looking better. And even if it does get better, the fantasy football playoffs are looking absolutely cooked. So I'd get this guy off my roster as soon as possible. Our next riser, though, Tucker Kraft. Absolutely love this guy for fantasy football. I think he's a good buy high target, actually, because week 1, he didn't have the most targets. He did have a good week. He only had 2 receptions. He did have a touchdown, which saved the week. But some people may be like, oh, it's just a one-off. It's just a one-off. I don't think so. We got Jaden Reed. He is out for 6 to 8 weeks. Who's going to be the target on this offense? Matthew Golden has not stepped up. Josh Jacobs, he hasn't been involved in the receiving game while he has been good, about 14 points both this first and second game. Tucker Kraft is stepping up in the receiving game. 6 receptions in this game. We head over and see he had 7 targets. That's amazing for a tight end, especially with his after the catch ability. So really like Tucker Kraft. He is certainly rising up my board as a top tight end, especially with Hawkinson and Laporta falling down. Tucker Kraft could be a top 3 tight end, top 4 tight end at the very least, especially with George Kittle hurt as well. Tucker Kraft is a guy that if you can trade for him, especially if they've got multiple guys, maybe they have Travis Kelce, maybe they added somebody else like Juwan Johnson, and they're okay to let you have Tucker Kraft at a deal, I would be trying to trade for Tucker Kraft. His stock is certainly rising. I think it's going to keep going up because this next week he should have another good game. Again, there's not a lot of other targets in this offense. So Tucker Kraft, a must trade for. If you got him, I think you have to put him in your starting line. Fowler, Travis, Hunter. Now, the big problem here is he played a lot of defense against the Bengals, and he hasn't really been showing up as much on the offensive side of the ball. Now, when we go to the game log, this offense just has been mega inefficient. We look at the snaps. Not great. These are not great snap numbers. We hate to see that. His routes per game, these are terrible numbers. That's really limiting his opportunities to get involved. His routes run, his route rate, and his routes and his snaps, all terrible. So that's something to watch out for there. Definitely not exciting at all. His targets aren't that bad. Remember, A.J. Brown had 8 targets, and his target share was like 27%. We have 6 targets and 14%. So that just goes to show how much these teams are passing, but it's been really inefficient for the Jaguars. Brian Thomas Jr. hasn't been doing great as well. And if Travis Hunter is going to bounce back and forth between offense and defense, not running routes every time he's out there, this is a big concern. And this is another player that he's going to have some good weeks throughout the season. But then we look at the end of the year, he faces Denver week 16, the Colts week 17, who have been juggernauts. Now, we'll see if that continues for Denver, for the Colts. But right now, this is looking like one of the worst playoff schedules for a wide receiver. This is another player. As soon as he has that first good week, I'm trying to get him off my team. Our next faller is Travis Hunter. Had so much hype in the draft, but exactly what we were worried about kind of happening. He's playing a little bit too much defense. He's not running enough routes. We go right to the game log, and we'll scroll over, and we'll see that his routes are absolutely terrible. His routes are absolutely terrible. Snaps, terrible. Snap percentage, terrible. Routes, terrible. Route percentage, terrible. He's just not involved enough in this offense. With the inefficiency we're seeing and Trevor Lawrence picking a new target every week, week 1, maybe Brian Thomas Jr., week 2 is Parker Washington, Diame Brown. Everybody is getting involved in this offense. I just don't think there's enough volume and enough efficiency here for Travis Hunter to succeed for fantasy football this year. So after his first big game, he will probably have a breakout game at some point. That's when we got to trade him away because he's just not reliable enough to keep him in our starting lineup. Next riser, oh my gosh, is MVP Daniel Jones. He's been crushing it up to this point. Quarterback 3, quarterback 5, passing touchdowns, yardage, almost 300 yards per game, rushing touchdowns 3 so far in 2 games. He's rushing at a high rate. His rush share is at a high rate. He's absolutely dominating. And with Jonathan Taylor in this offense as well, it is hard to stop both. It's very difficult to stop Jonathan Taylor, who's succeeding especially well as well, having Daniel Jones as quarterback. But Daniel Jones is dominating too, and this defense is great. This team looks really actually dangerous, really difficult to stop. And Daniel Jones is a person you have to add off the waiver wire. If you can trade for him, great trade for target, because most people with Daniel Jones probably have another quarterback that they're okay with starting. So I would go after one of their quarterbacks if you need one. Daniel Jones especially. I think he can keep this up. Denver was such a tough test, and he passed with flying colors. So Daniel Jones is on the rise. He's got real potential to be a league winner this year. So I tried to get him early, why some people still are seeing him as Daniel Jones of the Giants. This is a new team. This is a new offense. This is a new defense. This new offensive line. This is Daniel Jones of the Colts. I think it's going to be different this year. Our next faller. Now, hear me out on this, guys, but it is Emeka Egbuka. And this is not clickbait. This is not a rage bait or anything like that. I really believe his value is way too high. He is honestly falling for me after week 2. We head over to his fantasy points per game. He's almost top 12. So what's my issue? Well, his target share, not the best. Under 20% target share. You look at his game log, and he had 4 catches in both games. That's not good enough. 4 catches in the game is not good enough for fantasy value. Last night, 29 yards, 4 catches, 29 yards. Simply is not good enough. The only thing saving him is these touchdowns, but that's not going to stick. It's just not going to happen. He's tied probably for 3rd most or close to 1st in the entire league with touchdowns. He's just not going to score every week. That Mike Evans is going to score. Chris Godwin is also coming back at some point. So that is the big danger with Emeka Egbuka. If right now he's only getting 4 receptions per game and the targets are 6 and 7 targets per game, that is not enough for fantasy football value. So right now, if you have Emeka Egbuka, I would be personally trying to sell extremely high right now. Get him off your team. Get somebody who's going to be more consistent, especially after Cade Otton returns fully to health and Chris Godwin is back as well. His value will probably be a lot more mediocre as the season progresses. Our final risers. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. If you want to get a video like this every single week, hit the like, drop a start sit comment as well. And we're talking Quinshad Junkins. He had 10 fantasy points this week. He wasn't even supposed to play. He's supposed to be on a limited snap. It is week 2, and 10 fantasy points really seems like a floor. He also had 3 targets as well. We'll go to the game log, and I do think he got some extra run because the game was a little bit out of hand, but 3 receptions, that's solid numbers as well. The rush yard 61 is great. The snaps were absolutely abysmal, which is great because that means it can only go up from here. And we look at their games, and they're going to be facing Green Bay. You probably should really try to establish the run. Is it going to work? Probably not, but you can't pass against Green Bay. It just will not work. You look at Detroit, Minnesota, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's been really weak against the run. Go to the fantasy football playoffs. You're facing Chicago, Buffalo, and Pittsburgh again. These are 3 good matchups in the fantasy football playoffs. This is a guy, there's a potential, I don't want to say 100% he won't get suspended at all this year. I personally don't think he will. I'll say that is a possibility based on some of the things that happened before the season. But right now, I think he's an amazing option. I think he's a good trade for because a lot of people drafted him so late, they didn't even expect him to have any value. So if they're stacked up at running back and they don't need him, getting him for your team could actually be one of the biggest deals of the year.